Afternoon, everyone. We've just muted you all. We will unmute you once the presentation's all done. We're just going to wait for another couple of more minutes to see if more people are joining. So another couple of more minutes, and then we will start the presentation. Craig, let me know when you want me to start. Craig, you can unmute yourself.
I would so we say 5 past to give everyone else a chance in case anyone's a little bit late.
Sure, yeah.
Cool. Also, hi everyone. I think that's given everyone enough time for any stragglers there, Vim. So probably worth getting
So,
one if you're able.
yeah, and we just keep an eye on if there's anyone waiting in the lobby, let them in, please. Okay, start. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for your time. Massive thank you to Ivory Egg for organizing this. And again, once again, thank you for your time, guys. What we're going to do today is look at energy monitoring and management for residential and commercial buildings. We'll go through some of the product portfolios and we'll do a practical demonstration of the dashboard as well. Some housekeeping rules, which is I have muted you all guys. I will unmute you at the end of the presentation. This session is recorded and we will share this with you guys as well. And one thing is, if you guys have got any questions, please feel free to put it on the chat. This is an hour-long presentation, but if you want to stay longer and ask any questions, more than happy to answer that as well. I'm sure you all know ABB, but a quick overview of our divisions. So we are ABB and we've got distribution solutions, smart power, smart buildings, installation products and services. The team today here belongs to the smart building, and under smart building, we cover smart home. So that's your KNX and your free at home stuff. Building control. So that's our own BMS solution under Cylon branding. We've got our door entry systems. This is both 2-wire and IP. Our own emergency lighting system under the emergency light banner. We've got wiring accessories. So this is your 230 volt, your 13 amp sockets, things on those lines. Then we've got the energy efficiency product range. So that's where this portfolio belongs to. We've got our DIN rail products. So these usually comprise of your MCBs, your RCBOs, things on those lines. And then you've got our distribution enclosures. Anything in the red is what the team here looks after. And in the team, you've got myself. I'm the product manager and marketing specialist for the building home automation product ranges, including the energy efficiency ranges. We've got Fabrice, who looks after specification and technical promotion in the north. And Andrew, who I know most of you might already know, who's on the call as well, looks after that in the same as Fabrice, but for the south. And we've got Manusri as well, who is our global product manager in this call, who I'm hoping can help and support us if there is any questions that I'm not able to answer. So that's the team in the UK and globally in this call. So there's a good variety, and hopefully we'll be able to answer the questions you have towards the end of the presentation. So the agenda is to look at the need for metering, why we're seeing a rise in the metering in itself. Look at our DIN rail meters, our panel mount meters. These are just overview, guys. The entire presentation is a good overview of our solutions. If you want to deep dive, go and understand it more, please get in touch with us and we'll be happy to do that. Then we will look at our electrical power management system. That's the meat of the presentation, our circuit monitoring systems. We'll go pretty much in depth into that. We'll look at a case study and answer any questions towards the end. But like I said earlier on, if you got questions, please put it in the chat. And if you want to stay longer after the presentation's done, happy to do that as well. Let's get away with some of the jargons or words I'll be using quite a lot in this presentation. One is MID approved. So this means the device is approved for billing purposes. So for example, in your house, you might have meters. Those would be MID approved. So that's something I would use quite consistently throughout the presentation. Modbus RS485 is a communication protocol. I will be mentioning Modbus RS485 and Modbus TCP. These are communication protocols you would find in most devices, whether that be a heat pump or an EV charger, but also in metering. Then MBus, which is specific for meters alone, and web user interface. I think a crowd like this, you guys know what a web user interface is. It's probably a dashboard, an app that you can visualize the information. So the need for metering, why are we seeing a need for metering? Why have you guys all joined and interested in it? There are a few reasons. One is the obvious, which is cost. We're all seeing a rise in energy prices and everybody wants to understand where that is. Apart from that, there are a few other things that's coming into play a lot more than they used to. One is BREEAM. BREEAM used to be a certificate, BREEAM is a certification for buildings that it caters to everything in the building, right? From the controls, right? From the fabrics that's used and the energy efficiency And the energy efficiency part of it is becoming more and more important. It's not a new regulation, but we're really seeing consultants specifying more of this in the buildings. Another one is neighbors. So this originated in Australia, but now we have neighbors UK itself. Neighbors UK is predominantly consisted of two parts. One is considering the buildings during design stage, and one is after the building's been done and operating. But the difference between BREEAM and neighbors, or the core difference is, if BREEAM looks at the entirety of the building, neighbors look at only at the energy efficiency side of things. So again, this is becoming a lot more popular, and we are seeing a rise in need for metering for that. Then the two other thing is ESG and ESOS. So these are especially ESOS is auditing. So people come into, maybe it's your office, maybe it's a hotel, or maybe it's a big commercial installation. You would come in and they will do an audit to understand where the energy usage is. And that energy usage, what we're seeing is the buildings have not been designed well, or they might not have enough metering information, and they are coming in and requesting us to provide metering solutions. So the retrofit market or brownfield installation is seeing a rise in that. Yes, these are very commercial focused, but we're seeing this flowing down into the residential as well. Let it be passive houses now concentrating more on energy efficiency or energy monitoring. So we are seeing that being driven into the residential world as well. So the first product range we will have a brief overview is our EQ meters, or our DIN rail mount meters. These we can provide you with a single phase direct connected, three-phase direct connected, single phase transformer connected, and three-phase transformer connected. They all fall under three different categories or range, which is A, B, and D. Doesn't mean we've forgotten C. C is being moved on and being superseded by the D range. For people who have not used metering or are not sure what direct connected and transformer connected means, a quick understanding is, if the incoming, so let's say in your own house, you'll have an incoming coming in, maybe a 63 amp incoming or a 100 amp incoming, meters will be able to take that current directly into it. So in this case, in ABB world, up to 80 amps, we can take it directly into the meter and out of the meter. But when you're doing bigger properties, big multi-million pound houses, potentially you'll have a three-phase, potentially you'll have 125 or 150 amp incoming. In that instance, that current cannot be connected directly to the meter, and you would require CTs or current transformers. I would like you guys to keep this in mind, because later on when we go into the circuit monitoring part of the things, there's a module called energy module or metering module, and that is CT connected. So this is how you would connect it. You've got the L1, L2, L3 coming in, and the CT is being connected to monitor the current of that. Previously, I said about the ABD series. What they have is different functionality, which are classified as steel, bronze, silver, gold, and platinum, with steel just doing your kilowatt hour and platinum going all the way to like harmonics and more commercial driven. What we are also seeing is, as the need for metering happens more and more, people are not just interested in the kilowatt hour. They want to understand the import, they want to understand export, maybe see if there is any unbalances in the system, especially if you're doing a big residential property. In that instance, what we're seeing is the steel, bronze, silver all together is needed. Hence, we moved into the D series, which combines those three together. And in about 3 to 5 years' time, you'll see the A and B might be superseded by E and F, maybe with more functionality built into one meter itself. All our DIN rail meters are MID approved, so you can use for billing purposes. And all our meters support either Modbus RS485 or MBus. So these are the two communication protocols through which you can take that metering information back into any high-end supervisory system. That's a brief overview of our DIN rail meters. Moving on to panel meters, where it's higher current, higher functionality requirement. You can see here, you see switch boards and panel boards, and you're seeing this more and more in the residential world as well, where When you're doing bigger property or even MDUs type of setups, this is becoming a lot more popular down at the switch room. We do it on the M series. So we got the M4, M20 and the M4, M30. As the name suggests, 30's got more functionality than 20. Again, this is just an overview presentation, so I'm not going to deep dive into what those are. But one thing to remember is we can now do more communication protocols rather than what we saw in the DIN rail world. So here we can do Modbus RS485, TCP, Profibus, BACnet IP. We've got certain USPs as well, wherein traditionally you would see especially if you're doing Modbus TCP, you would wire those meters individually back to one network switch. But we have two RJ45s built into our meters, so you can daisy chain them, which means that the number of ports and the number of cables you use can be reduced. Unlike the DIN rail meters, not everything is MID approved here. So if you are putting this in a project and you want it to be built, then only the Modbus RS485 and the TCP versions are MID approved. This is the full portfolio, and the entire portfolio has Bluetooth built into it. By that, you can program and commission the whole meters using our free Set4M meter app. So this means you can program it. You can, as long as you're on the Bluetooth range, you can actually monitor what the current usage is. If you remember the picture I showed you with all the M4M meters, you can program one, export the programming that you've done, and import it to the next one. It's a bit of a USP as well, saves time if you're doing multiple installations. So that's a quick overview of our DIN rail meters. Now, these meters in some shape or form needs to be collected back so that people can understand what the usage is. So there's few ways of doing it. One is doing it via our meter interface through KNX or our Insight Pro M. If we're talking about the KNX module, it is a ZS 1.1, a meter interface module. It's a 2-module device which has got an IR port on the side. Now, if you are putting our meters in, the ABB series we discussed, you can put the meter in and click on this IR module next to it. By that, all the information in this meter is now coming and is available in the KNX world. So when you open up this ETS app, open up the ETS, you will see all the parameters about the different functionality from the meters. There's a drop down which will enable you to select whether it's an A or a B. You select it, this gets automatically populated. Now you can put the group addresses for it. And as you guys know, once you've got the group address, you can start playing with it any way you want and use the full power of KNX. The other way is circuit monitoring or branch monitoring systems. And this is what is the meat of the presentation itself. What is circuit monitoring? So let's keep it very simple. If you're talking about in your house and you have a consumer board, you might have one breaker that's doing your EV charging. One might be doing your boiler. One might be doing your oven. To individually monitor those outgoing ways is what circuit monitoring system does. And it is not something new for ABB. We have evolved it right from CMS 600 back in 2007, 2008, when it was first launched. And all the programming was done through this little window, and you're able to visualize it through this window. From there, we moved it to CMS 700. So this was the first time we had a dashboard and a lot more circuits were able to be monitored. Then we moved to SCU 100, which is still available, by the way. And here's the first time we changed the naming as well from a circuit monitoring system to a sub-distribution control unit. By that, we are now able to control elements. We are able to monitor different aspects, third-party devices, things on those lines. And it's not a new kid on the block. It's been in the market for a few years now. But the SCU 200 was launched late 2022 or early 2023. And this is the latest version of our circuit monitoring system. The 100 is still available, by the way, guys, but we are going to be talking about the 200. So it's not something new for ABB. As you can see, the evolution, we've been doing it for a very, very long time. So the SCU 200, what is it? This is the module here. We have expansion modules, which I'll talk about in a minute. We have a ribbon cable that connects to different sensors. So you see the sensors here. Using this little connectors, which are punched down onto the ribbon cable, you connect it at the top of the sensors, collecting all the information from these breakers and back into the hidden unit, i.e. the SCU200. You can connect up to 16 Modbus TCP devices. So bear in mind, we're not just talking about meters. It could be EV chargers. It could be solar. As long as they communicate on Modbus TCP, 16 of them can be done. Here you can see the picture of the M4M, and that's why I wanted to give you a bit of a background of the M4M. So the M4M meter is natively integrated into the device. So as long as you put an M4M meter in, when you go and look in for it, it pulls all the information without any programming requirement. Similarly, we can connect up to 16 Modbus RS485 devices. Again, in this instance, it could be EV chargers or solar, as long as they work on a RS485. And as an example, here, the DIN rail meters that we discussed earlier on in the presentation can be brought back in as well. And we have done it, we have natively integrated that for you. But that doesn't mean we cannot support third party. Yes, if you are using a third party meter or a third party device, you can do it. And I'll show you later on when I run the dashboard. There's a little bit more programming requirement there, whereas use ABB, your life becomes easier. It has its own Wi-Fi built into it, i.e., well, if you are doing a nice house, obviously there's no Virgin or Sky or whoever has not come in yet, you can connect to it either via Wi-Fi or connect an RJ45 cable into your laptop, and you can program the whole thing, get the dashboard up and running without the requirement of an internet. Once they have the ISP provider has provided it, you can connect to it via Wi-Fi or via RJ45, via Ethernet. And up to 32 of these sensors can be connected to one device. A bit more deep dive into the device itself. At the top, you've got the RJ45 port. You've got the RS485 port here, which is where you connect the Modbus devices. The inside bus, which is the ribbon cable, the flat cable, that is connected at the top here. It's got an SD card slot, so the device itself can store up to 3 GB of data. If you want additional storage, you can put that through the SD card here. Then the usual LED indicators, reset button, WPS button, all that is available here as well. The sensors, we have built sensors that fits in our breakers nice and clean like this. But our biggest USP is to provide you this open core cable tie version. So that means you do not have to disconnect the cable. You can feed the cable right through the sensor itself. The breakers at the bottom now can be anyone's. Any third-party breakers. It really doesn't matter. So this is one of our USPs on how easily we can retrofit it. Or maybe you're doing a house, they've got their electrical contractor. He or she might be more might be using non-ABB protection devices. We can still install these sensors in there. The sensors, here's the part numbers of the ones that supported for the ABB device itself, and this is the universal one. One thing to note here is the current rating. We can provide you sensors that does 20, 40, 80, and 160 amp. Anything more than 160 amp, we do not have a sensor. But that doesn't mean the system cannot be used, because as I said earlier on, you could put, if, let's say, for example, you have a outgoing way that's more than 160 amp, you can buy a cheap DIN rail mount meter, one of the ABD series, or an M4M meter, monitor that, but still bring that back into the SCU100 for monitoring purposes, so that the end user, when they're looking at the dashboard, can see everything, which is what the purpose of this whole thing is, to understand where the energy usage is happening. For the guys in this call who are more commercial driven, you're probably already aware of this. In about early 2021, the Part L regulation came in saying that if you're using a split metered bore or a board that does your power and lighting that you traditionally see in commercial installations, dedicated lighting circuits with a kilowatt hour for each meter. So this means if this is all lighting, they want you to monitor every outgoing way. Imagine putting a meter in there for every single one. It'd be more expensive. Space restrictions might be it's going to be space problems. But if you put these sensors in, it makes your life a lot easier. And we are seeing a massive drive in that in the last few years, because obviously started in 2021, specs written in there, and now we are seeing it. And this is a commercial installation that proves how a third party devices can be, even in a third party device, we can connect our sensors. So these are not ABB devices, these are third party, and we can connect our sensors here through the ribbon cable going in here. And we put a nice enclosure where we put the head end unit collecting all the information. From a residential perspective, if you've got a consumer board like this, we can connect all of them up here. You can see, or if it's an ABB one where it all sits nice and clean onto the ABB breakers itself. One thing to note here is the blue LED light. It indicates that the devices have been programmed. Also, later on, when I show you a live demonstration of the dashboard, when I say I'm pressing the programming button, is this button. For all you KNX guys here, it's exactly the same button that you'll see in a KNX. How you do the programming, the addressing of the KNX device is the same one in here. Any device that's connected on the ribbon cable, the flat cable, that's how you program. It's got this indent in it, press it, and you program it. So you can do that in a very easily into the residential world. So the device itself has expansion modules, which I briefly mentioned beforehand. So these expansion modules has this little connector through which you connect all of them together. And what are these expansion modules? Expansion module number one I'm going to talk about is the power supply. So we've got a 15-watt power supply or a 30-watt power supply that provides power to the SCU and all the other expansion modules. What wattage you need to use, we do have a calculator through which it'll tell you, if you put in the number of sensors, number of devices connected, it will tell you what wattage it has to be. But this doesn't mean you have to use this power supply. Any 24-volt DC power supply will do the job. So if you do have one potentially in like in a KNX job in a residential sector, you would have one, you can use that as well. Next is a metering module. So this is why when I mentioned about the CT connected meters, I said I kind of wanted to point that out. This is that. If you have a meter or if you don't have a meter in the project, you can use this module. You've got the L1, L2, L3 in and the CTs. So anything over 80 amps, like we discussed earlier on, if you want to monitor it, you can put that in. But that's not to say if there is a meter, of course, if it's got Modbus RS485, bring it back into it. But if it doesn't have a meter, it makes a lot simpler to include this rather than putting a meter in. Then the next expansion module we have is called the Smart Auxiliary Contact. This works only with ABB. Most of the solutions I've been telling you about can be used with third party. This works with an ABB protection device. You click it right next to one of our maybe MCBs. It will start telling you whether the breaker was tripped or someone turned it off, was the temperature, things on those lines. You can get it back as well. You can even go a step further using our motor operated devices through which you connect it to one of the motor operated MCB like you see here. You can now turn it off and on. So remember, using cloud service and all that, this can be done remotely, on premise. You can do an automation, which I'll talk to you when I show you the dashboard of making the breaker go up and coming down. I'm sure most of you are not going to have a project that doesn't have internet, but if there is no internet available, then we can put in our LTE expansion module through which you can provide a SIM card. And this means that the information from the SCU200 can be seen in our cloud. This is fairly new. If you remember, I said the unit itself can do up to 32 sensors, but we have now released our hub module through which you can expand it. So one hub module can do up to 64 sensors. So that's 32 plus 64. And you can have two of these hub modules. So altogether, it's 64 plus 64 plus 32. So that's 160 sensors can now be done through the unit. Of course, there's power restriction, additional power supply requirements and all of that, but that is the baseline. If you do want to see this in its own dedicated HMI panel, or you want the HMI panel can also be used to programming it, we do have a 10-inch panel that is purely dedicated to see the dashboard of the SCU200. And this is a snapshot of the dashboard, which we will deep dive in. So let me quickly open up my demo board. So the first thing is when you log in, you will see a dashboard like this. And let me quickly show you a few things. One is I want you to, when you put in the IP address and you're in the system, it opens up a wizard and it takes you step by step on different, programming or different aspects of how you program it. If you've not done it, you can always come back here and open a wizard. So loads of people using it and find it very useful. These are pretty self-explanatory on how you shut down and restore things. Here is the storage. I don't have an SD card in my system, but you can put the SD card in here and start putting historical information into that. Another important thing is how do you connect this to the to your internet or to a Wi-Fi. Here, I've connected it directly via Wi-Fi. You can do that via Ethernet as well. If you click in here and select Ethernet, you can put static IP addresses for the Ethernet. Wi-Fi, when I've connected my device via Wi-Fi to my home network, and you can go in here and you can pick if there is any available networks. I've already connected it to mine and I've given it a static IP address. And that static IP address 192.168.0.200 is what I've logged into it. And there's a few other things, guys. As I said, this is an overview. I just want to show one other thing is this is how you enable the cloud. So if you want to see this in ABB's own cloud, which is a subscription-based services, you can enable it here. Right, moving on. The next thing is how do you add and delete devices? So here you see you've got the current sensors, IO modules, the motor operated device, RTU devices, TCP, all this is available for you. As I said, as long as it's connected via the ribbon cable, the process of adding it is exactly the way I'm going to do it. So in this case, I'm going to delete one of these sensors that I've got. So in my unit, I've got two sensors, 2 meters, and some IO modules in it. So here I'm deleting it. It does take a couple of seconds for it to be deleted. But once that is done, I'll show you how I re-add it into it. And to re-add it, remember, I am pressing that indent button in the front, i.e. the programming button. It just does take a couple of seconds. More than a couple of seconds. There you go. It's now been removed. And when this little red button, which is add and assign a new current sensor. And what this is doing is it's now from my dashboard is going to the device and saying, okay, is there any device that is in commissioning mode or has the device gone into a commissioning mode? So again, this takes a couple of seconds. Obviously, these are the initial ones. You'll see as soon as I add one, how quickly you can start adding the other devices as well. Okay, so it says please press the push button of the current sensor one by one to add them. So I'm going to go and I'm pressing the programming button of my unit, and it says it's a new device has been added, and it moves to the next one. So remember, if you've got that 32 or 64 or whatever it is, keep pressing that button and you can keep going on and on. But here I've only got 2 sensors. I've done that and I press done. So this is the new current sensor. So I can rename it, maybe put it as a webinar sensor. Which phase is it sitting in? Is it L1, L2, L3? So let's say L1. Is it exporting it back to the grid? Is it meaning then you can say yes or no. Remember, these are current sensors. They're not calculating the voltage. So to calculate the voltage, either you can put a constant value on it, or if there are any meters, in my case, I do have a meter, which is, you know, the EQ meter, where like we showed on the very first slide, which is the DIN rail meters, or an M4M meter. I can go in here and pick the voltage, or you can just give it a constant. And it's similarly for the power factor. You save it. Now you can go to the dashboard. I've already created a dashboard, but it's as simple as create new dashboard, and you can create one here. In the dashboard, we've got plenty of widgets. So I press on widget. Let me, for example, pick instantaneous values, but there is so many different widgets that's available, right from CO2 to tariffs to OCCP, so for chargers, energy consumption. So let me just pick instantaneous value, and we can name this whatever we want. Again, something like that. All the device that's available is now in the drop-down box. So in this case, I'm going to pick the current sensor that we just did, and I'm going to pick the device. So there you go. The webinar sensor has come. I'm going to select all of them, and I'm going to pick, I'm saying, okay, I want to display the active power, and I want to display it in a table format. I don't want it in a chart format. That table can be completely customized. So maybe I don't want the TRMS value. There is no DC. By the way, the system can monitor DC as well. And I add the widget. No load is going through it, but I can replicate a load. There you go. I can increase the load and increase it even further. If I say, no, I want it in chart format, change that. That comes up again. And I can decrease the load, further down, and I turn it off. So it's quite instantaneous, and you should be able to see that. The other thing I want to talk about is grouping. So what is grouping? So let's say, for example, in this case, I've written swimming pool, right? Because it's a good example. In a swimming pool, you could have a breaker that is doing the lights. You could have another breaker that's doing the air handling unit. You could have another breaker that's doing the pumps. Each of those sensors can be obviously monitored individually, like I just showed you, or you can group them. So in this case, I have grouped my energy module, one of my DIN rail meters, and a current sensor. And you can now go back to the same dashboard, and in this case, maybe pick energy values, because I want to know the kilowatt hour, which is what we're all, and then I go down here, I pick the groups. And here's a swimming pool group. And I say, yes, active import, because that's what I'm getting charged. Pick the table, and I say, I don't want any of the voltages. I just want the value on the total. So that is a combination of those 3 devices. So if you've got 10 sensors that's doing lighting throughout your this big house that you're doing, you can start individually monitoring them, or you can group them all together to give the total value as well. In that same note, we can now do costing. So if I go to the same swimming pool analysis and I pick here, I pick those 2 devices, I can add cost to it. So I can say, I have a day tariff. You can add different tariffs. So in this case, I'll put day, I'll put a cost on it. When does it start? What time is that tariff? And you save it. And now in the cost analysis, all you need to do is add total cost. So when we put total cost, which we just did, which I've already done here and shows. Of course, mine's a demo board, guys, so it's not costing me a lot, but that's how you can start. You can have that for every single sensor. You can have that for the meters, whatever you want in there. Historical values, this is quite important as well. People want to know what has happened. You can go in here and start picking. Oh, one thing I wanted to mention was the slave control unit. So you see local control unit and slave control unit. So that means that if you have multiple SCU 200s, instead of going to every single SCU 200 and logging in and understanding it, you can make one as the master and the rest as slaves and bring that information back. So going back to the historical values, I can pick the unit, any of the units that's connected to it. So in this case, current sensor. What do you want to view? You want the active power, you want to know the current, you want to know the kilowatt. Pick that. The resolution is available and the period. You can download it straight away, or you can go to import and export, data export. You can add a new data export. So let's say, for example, I'm just going to go test. And again, the current sensors that we did, and maybe write down to one sensor, the webinar sensor that we just wanted it in a CSV format, all the historical values in that. I want the energy, which again is what everybody wants. First day of every week, export the last 5 days, 6 days, what resolution you want, pick that in here. You can put that in the SD card. I don't have SD card, or you can send it via email. So that's another way of sending historical information away. You can view it or you can send it. Quickly, last one before I move on is automations. So if I go into the automation section and add a new automation, and let's say I do a test, you can trigger it always on selected period or on schedule. So when does the automation happen? You can do that. And then you move into if. If could be a condition. So in this case, I say current sensors. Again, I'm picking that webinar sensor that we did. If that increases, increases, decreases, if there's a communication failure or it's come back into communication, i.e. maybe the ribbon cable has popped out or someone's cut through it or whatever it is, if some form of communication is not happening, these different parameters are available. So let's say if it increases or crosses up energy, 20. So if it increases 20 kilowatt, add, you can add and or and other conditions. But in this case, I'm just going to do 1. You can send an email alert. You can create an alarm that will show up on the alarm panel here. But alternatively, you can connect what's called input-output modules that's available in the system. So we've got 4 input, 4 output, or 2 input, 2 output modules. These modules, especially the output ones, can be connected to anything. You could connect it to a KNX switch actuator. So when that breaker exceeds X amount, that KNX switch actuator, which is controlling lights, could be turned off. If you just want a red light to come on to indicate something has gone wrong, you can do that. So in this case, I'm selecting the input-output module. Output module, it's got 4 ports, as in 4 output ports. And I might say I've already connected something on output 1, connect output 2, and I can open it or close it. So that is available as well. Right. So back to the presentation. We've made it pretty easy for you guys to order it. So obviously pick the unit, SCU 100, that's one part number. If you want to monitor, there's no meters, or you want to monitor, have an additional meter, this is if you want, is that metering module that I spoke about. That's 2 part numbers. The ribbon cables themselves come in 5, 10, and 30 meters. They can obviously be cut. So that's 3 part number. Then the little connectors, which I said that you punch onto the ribbon cable, they come in a bag of 35. That's 4 part numbers. And then it's up to the sensors themselves. So you have 20 amp, 40 amp, 80 amp, 160 amps by the sensors. So it's pretty simple. It doesn't matter if it's a massive big commercial job or a two-bedroom house. The ordering process and the components are still the same, and it's quite simple to get your head around that. Next is, as you're all, or most of you are anyway, are KNX guys. How do you bring this information back into the KNX world? So we have our control server, which is called the ABB app control server. It's just like any KNX server, guys. We can do lighting, heating, blinds, windows. It's Matter enabled. But, and by the way, I'm not saying you have to use our app control server for the SCU200. Any device that can convert Modbus TCP to KNX can be used. Obviously, I'm going to only show you about ABB. So um, in 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 our world, the control server is a BACnet IP gateway and a Modbus TCP gateway. And I am going to show you a video of how to quickly back in to show you the video. Sorry, guys, bear with me. So here, I'm showing you a quick video of how we are integrating it with the SCU200. So I'm logging into the SCU200 itself, and you can see the entire dashboard that we just did. Has tariffs and energy information and things of those lines. Everything is showing up on the dashboard itself. And then what I'm going to do is see if I can bring this information into the app. Okay. So I'm opening up the control server app here. Got different rooms that you can create. In this case, I'm just showcasing that it is a normal KNX server through which you can turn lights on or turn dim lights up and down. But what I want to quickly show you, stopping there, is I've created a page called energy metering. Now I'm going to log into the energy metering, and here I have imported, because this is a Modbus TCP gateway as well, all the information from the SCU200. So you can see the current sensors, the voltage, the energy, frequency, and you'll see this value changing. But I've also done is, and I personally think this is more than enough, because if you have got a dashboard in SCU200, recreating that on the KNX, yes, it has its advantages, but a quick work would be, I've created a button here where I've embedded the IP address of the SCU200. So when we are in this page and you're visualizing it, but then you say, actually, I want to see the dashboard, I can click on that and it takes me back to the dashboard of the SCU200. Alternatively, we've got cloud as well. So I quickly showed you guys how to enable the cloud. It's a subscription based, and what it does, it takes you, yes, you can do it on the local web server, but you can now visualize all the information on the cloud as well. And the advantage of the cloud is, obviously, not only are you remotely accessing it, but you can access multiple properties. So if you got someone who's got a holiday home in Spain, and they have a main house in London, you can have that, and they can go in and click onto that to see the different usage of the different properties. We will be sharing these links, guys. So this will have the direct link to our energy management catalog, i.e. the C200 catalog, the DIN rail catalog, the panel mount. There's a good set of how-to videos. Some of the things I've explained in this presentation in terms of adding and removing devices is available in that YouTube video. Before I let you go, we did a fantastic case study in Edinburgh, which was which had KNX, which had energy monitoring, all combined to it. It was a service department. So let me do that, but I think I've enabled the audio. So let me enable audio. Move on to
How do you modernise a city with thousands of years of history? Edinburgh has ambitious plans to reach net zero by 2030, and that means town planners need to adapt some of the city's heritage. Take the buildings at Abbey Strand, just next to the King's official residence. Parts of them date back 5 centuries. Once a sanctuary for those on the run from the law, they've now become a sanctuary of a different kind for those looking for good local accommodation. And the key requirement for developers was using smart building technology to monitor and optimise the site's energy efficiency.
People have realised, let it be in a residential sector or in the hospitality or in commercial building, the demand is there now. They want to have buildings that are catered towards a net zero, understand their carbon emissions.
And no wonder, energy costs have risen drastically in the UK over recent years, with the average household paying almost twice as much in 2023 as they did just a couple of years before. The circuit monitoring systems here allow building managers to know exactly where power is being used across all their sites in the UK and act accordingly, allowing for smarter, more targeted decision making and saving up to 30% of energy costs.
What we're finding now is we spend more time with the kit. We can alter and change the buildings to suit how we want to monitor the information that's there. So we can quickly make financial decisions on where we want to push the money for investment, and is it just kitchen equipment that consumes the most amount of stuff, or is it the general running of the building itself? And there's always a sense of achievement if you can identify areas of the building that are they're unused but they're consuming. If you can shut that down, it makes a big difference. It's a good feeling about it.
Accelerating the energy efficiency of homes and buildings is the #1 priority in Edinburgh's 2030 climate strategy. And that's something, say developers, that can only be achieved with the help of technology like this, bringing together building automation with energy monitoring and putting the cutting edge in the service of the deeply historical.
It's unbelievable, that feeling of you were a part of that project and did something for the city which I've lived for about 20 years. It's a special feeling.
Oh, that was cringe. So as a summary, guys, if you're looking at residential property or commercial property, if you've got EV chargers, we could put a meter in, or current sensors in them itself. PV systems, bring them back through current monitor and monitoring it through current sensors. Energy storage, power grid. So this is the main incoming coming into the house itself. Any heat pumps or any other loads that you want to monitor, we can put the sensors in. I've not spoken about the wireless M-bus module, but if you got water and gas meters, that can be brought back in as well. There's different ways of doing that. But that pretty much, I would say, would cover most residential, in fact, all residential applications that we tend to see in the UK. Then bringing it back to the main unit, you can either visualize it through the web server or go to the cloud. Thank you, guys. Appreciate your time. Let me answer any questions, if there is any questions. Let's unmute.
All the mics should be enabled, so you'll be able to unmute yourselves.
So if you guys got any questions or have anything you want me to cover, more than happy to do it.
Or if you're a little shy, you can always pop it in the chat. If you'd rather type it, then say it out loud in front of everyone.
So on the design side, can you hear me? Is that all good?
That's Rusty. Yes, I can hear you. Is that Rusty?
It is Rusty, yes.
Yeah.
On the design, if you really want to see me, I'll turn my camera on. But on the design side, is there a way that you guys could help us, obviously, work out all the different products we might need for a job? So I've got some particularly large projects where all of those and more, should I say, are in there. And we would like to monitor it, energy monitoring. That's the reason we're here today.
Of course. Sorry.
That was it, really. Just a design. Because obviously you guys know the product.
We do have a configurator, Rusty, that you can go in and start playing with it. And of course, between Andrew, myself, and Fabrice, we'd be more than happy to come along, do a little bit of a site survey for you guys, understand the setup, if it's a retrofit or if it's a new build, sit down with you and go through the schematics and see what needs to be done.
Cool, super. That was kind of my question, really, because I've put all the infrastructure in, expand the panels and everything in to do it. And again, it's got gas, water, boreholes, heat pumps, solar, potentially wind coming soon, and batteries. So, and again, all the different big loads that we've left cables in, extra cables so we can clamp onto them. So it's kind of ready and it's there. And that's why I'm here today, to listen to you guys and see what's going on.
Do you think the solution?
I think all the solutions are there. Everything's there, and it's again, it's also about integrating it back in, because it's a smart home, into the smart home. So having that, I'm pretty sure it's simple enough, having that user interface so they can see what's happening, where it's going, what their batteries should do, and where it's, because I'm finding more and more that customers, yes, they sit there and watch their Octopus tariffs and how much their PV is doing and whatnot, but they don't know where it's going, and that is a really important thing.
And that is the key right now, Rusty. Everybody wants to understand where that, come down to the granular level of understanding where that energy is being used.
But okay, I'll reach out to you guys after, and we'll try and get something booked in to come and see. Well, one of them, give me an understanding, and then we can move on to the next ones, really. Yeah,
I mean, one of the things I forgot to mention is we do have our tech hub in Holborn, where you can come in, the system is there, you can visualize it and see it live in action almost.
Yeah, cool. Thank you very much.
Okay.
We got a question from Rusba in chat, Vim. Can you see that one?
Okay, yeah, thanks for the thank you. How many Modbus TCP devices can be defined inside the ABB control server? In the control server, it's more data points. It's up to 500 data points on the control server can be done. Is there any AWS MQTT connectivity included in the control server? Okay, again, it's in the control server. No AWS or MQTT. The control server itself can be visualized. It's a cloud platform, so you can see everything remotely. It's like any KNX app server almost, so you can see it remotely. It doesn't have AWS or MQTT yet. It is something that we are looking in on the control server, or if it is only available on the Insight Pro. So it talked via Modbus TCP. You can pull the information into the control server. Into the control server from Insight Pro. There is no AWS or MQTT built into the control server, if that's what you want. Another point, if we use Modbus RTU or TCP converters from third party, is there a limitation? Why would you want to convert Modbus RTU to TCP? As long as the end device sends TCP information to my SCU 200, we would consider that as one device. So unless you sorry.
Thanks. Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah. So if you got a device, it's more, Rosba, we see it in the water meter world. So it tends to be like water meters don't have anything on it. There's no communication protocol built in the water meters at all. So we see small converters that you can buy, third-party manufacturers, that will convert the pulse into Modbus RS485 and bring it back into the SCU 200. Or you can bring the pulse back as well, but it might be a longer run and there might be voltage drops. But if you've just got a water meter that just does pulse, you can bring that back into it, or use converters to change the pulse into Modbus RS485 or TCP, whatever it is. You can bring it back. There's wireless options as well, LoRa options as well.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, guys, I know we just hit the 3 o'clock mark. I'm happy to stay on for another 5 minutes or so if you guys got any questions.
Yep, I've got one, Vimal.
Sure. Yep. Oh, Matt.
Right.
Oh, hi, Matt.
The SCU 200, it doesn't have a KNX connection. Can you get that information onto the bus to be used for other things? Or does it have to go through the control touch first?
Yes, it does have to go through the. It doesn't, as I said, doesn't have to be the control server. Anything that can change from Modbus TCP to KNX, what the control server does very well is it for every point you add from the Modbus TCP, you would get a group address for it. So now it's in the KNX world, and you
Yeah,
can
so
use
it does
those
it
group objects for
automatically.
whatever you want. Yeah, but if there is any other manufacturers who can do it, you're more than welcome to use them as well.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
Seems like no one else has any other questions. Speak now or forever hold your peace.
And I mean, you guys can always get in touch with me, Andrew, or Ivory Egg. As I said, we've got a tech hub in Holborn where you can come and visualize it. We can deep dive it into a bit more if you want to. We've also have got a demo board which you can purchase from Ivory Egg. It has got one power supply, one SCU 200, about 3 sensors, couple of 13 amp sockets where you can plug in the load, and it will you can simulate some load by adding onto it, go into the dashboard, start playing with the system. So that's available through us as well. We've just done it. So if anybody wants to do that, they're happy to do it.
Yeah, I was going to say, if anyone has any questions as well, we can get in touch after the fact. Adrian and I and Matt will be available if anyone needs anything. But massive thank you to Vim and Andrew for putting this on and for hosting the webinar.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thanks
guys.
for joining
And
us, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Ivory Egg as well. Cheers. Thanks, guys, for helping us organize this. Perfect. So
Thanks,
shall
guys.
we? Thank you.